The rain pounded the streets of Asheville, North Carolina, like it was trying to drown the world. I stood under the awning of a shuttered bookstore, my breath fogging in the chilly night air, waiting for a man I'd never met but already feared. My boss, Victor Crane, had sent me a cryptic text. Meet me at the old warehouse on Patton Avenue. Bring no one. Tell no one. My name's Ethan Walsh, a 28-year-old nobody who somehow ended up working for one of the most ruthless real estate tycoons in the Southeast. Victor wasn't just my boss, she was a shadow that loomed over every decision I made, every dream I dared to chase. I'd seen him ruin lives with a single phone call. And now, he was dragging me into something darker than I'd ever imagined. The warehouse loomed ahead, a hulking relic of Asheville's industrial past, its windows black as the secrets it held. I pushed open the rusted door, my heart hammering. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of oil and dust. Victor stood in the center of the room, his tailored suit pristine despite the grime around him. Next to him, tied to a chair, was a man so beautiful it stopped my breath. He had pale skin that seemed to glow under the flickering fluorescent lights, sharp cheekbones, and jet black hair that fell in soft waves over his forehead. His eyes, a piercing gray, locked onto mine with a mix of defiance and something softer, something that made my chest ache. His lips were pressed into a thin line, but there was no mistaking the quiet strength in him, even bound and gagged. Ethan, Victor said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. Meet Julian Hart. He's a problem, and you're going to fix it. I tore my eyes from Julian, my stomach twisting. What's this about? Victor, why's he here? Victor's smile was a blade. Julian's family owns the last piece of land I need for my new development. He's been uncooperative, refuses to sell. So, I brought him here to change his mind. My mouth went dry. You kidnapped him. Don't be dramatic. Victor snapped, stepping closer. I'm giving you a choice. Ethan, break him. Make him sign over the land. Or I'll destroy everything you love, your sister's bakery, your mother's house, that little art studio you think I don't know about. All of it. Gone. I glanced at Julian again. His gaze hadn't wavered. And in it, I saw something that shook me, a flicker of trust. Like he believed I wouldn't do this. But Victor always got what he wanted. Always. I'm not a monster, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Victor laughed, cold and sharp. Then you'd better learn to be one. You have 1 week. He left me there, alone with Julian in the dimly lit warehouse. I approached him cautiously, my hands trembling as I untied the gag. His voice, when it came, was low and steady, laced with a quiet fury. You don't have to do this. Ethan. How do you know my name? I asked, startled. Victor's not exactly subtle, he said, his eyes softening just a fraction. And I'm good at reading people. You're not like him. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But Victor's threat hung over me like a guillotine. My sister, Lily, had poured her heart into her bakery. My mom's house was the only home we'd ever known. And the art studio, it was where I escaped, where I painted the dreams I couldn't speak aloud. Losing them would break me. I don't have a choice, I said, hating how weak I sounded. Julian leaned forward, the ropes straining against his wrists. There's always a choice. You just have to be brave enough to make it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know him. But something about Julian, his quiet strength, his unshakable calm made me want to be the man he thought I could be. I untied his hands, my fingers brushing against his skin. It was cold, but the touch sent a jolt through me, like I'd been asleep my whole life and was finally waking up. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I muttered, stepping back. Julian stood, rubbing his wrists, his eyes never leaving mine. It's already hard, Ethan, but it doesn't have to be cruel. Over the next few days, I was supposed to break him. Victor had set us up in a safe house on the outskirts of town, a crumbling cabin hidden in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was just me and Julian, with Victor's men checking in every few hours to make sure I wasn't slacking. The plan was simple: pressure Julian, scare him, do whatever it took to get him to sign the papers. But every moment I spent with him made that plan feel impossible. Julian wasn't what I expected. He wasn't just some rich kid sitting on a valuable plot of land. He was a historian, passionate about preserving Asheville's past, especially the land his family had owned for generations, a small farm that had been a safe haven for queer folks during the 1960s, a place where they could be themselves without fear. He told me about it one night over a shared bottle of cheap whiskey, his voice soft but fierce. "That land's not just dirt," he said, staring into the fire. "It's a legacy. People found love there. Ethan, real love. The kind that changes you." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "And you're willing to risk everything for it?" He looked at me, his gray eyes catching the firelight. "Aren't you risking everything for the people you love?" His words hit me like a punch. I thought about Lily, laughing behind the counter of her bakery. My mom, tending her garden. The canvases in my studio, filled with colors I'd never shown anyone. And now, Julian, someone I barely knew but couldn't stop thinking about. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I don't know how to be the bad guy." Julian reached out, his hand resting on mine. It was the first time he'd touched me, and it felt like the world shifted. "Then don't," he whispered. "Be the good guy. For once." I wanted to. I wanted to so badly it hurt. But Victor's shadow was everywhere, and I knew he wasn't bluffing. If I didn't deliver, he'd burn my life to the ground. And yet, every time I looked at Julian, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. By the end of the third day, I was unraveling. Julian and I talked for hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about his first love, a boy from high school who'd broken his heart. I told him about the paintings I kept hidden, the ones that poured out my fears and dreams. We laughed. We argued. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing him as a target. He was just Julian. Beautiful, stubborn, infuriatingly brave Julian. That night, as the rain battered the cabin, I caught him staring at me across the rickety kitchen table. "What?" I asked, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't name. "You're not what I expected," he said softly. "You're better." I didn't know what to say. All I knew was that I was falling for him, and it was the most dangerous thing I'd ever done. The cabin felt smaller every day, like the walls were closing in on me and Julian. The tension between us was a live wire. Every glance, every accidental touch, sparked something I couldn't ignore. But Victor's deadline loomed, and his men were circling closer, their check-ins growing more menacing. I was running out of time, and Julian knew it. On the fourth night, I found him outside, sitting on the porch steps, staring at the stars. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that made you feel alive. I sat beside him, our shoulders brushing, and for a moment, we were just two guys under a sky too big for our problems. "You ever think about running away?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "All the time," I admitted. "But I've got people who need me. My sister, my mom, they're my anchor." Julian turned to me, his eyes searching. "And what about you, Ethan? What do you need?" No one had ever asked me that. Not Lily. Not my mom. Not even the guys I'd dated in secret. Back when I thought love was something I could afford. I looked at Julian, his face half lit by the moon, and felt my chest tighten. I don't know, I said honestly. But being here, with you, it's making me want things I shouldn't. He didn't look away. Like what? I swallowed, my heart pounding. Like you. The words hung between us, raw and reckless. Julian's breath hitched, and for a second, I thought he'd pull away. Instead, he leaned closer, his hand finding mine. His touch was warm now, not cold like that first night, and it sent a shiver through me. Ethan, he said, his voice low and urgent. You don't have to do what Victor says. We can find another way. I wanted to believe him, but the weight of Victor's threat was crushing. If I don't, he'll destroy my family. You don't know him like I do. Julian's grip tightened. Then let me help you. We'll figure it out together. I laughed, bitter and broken. You're the one tied up in this mess, and you're trying to save me. He smiled, small but real. Maybe we're saving each other. That night, we stayed up talking, plotting, dreaming. Julian had an idea, risky one. His family's land wasn't just valuable to Victor. It was protected by a historical preservation trust. If we could prove its cultural significance, Victor's development plans could be blocked legally. But it would mean exposing Victor's actions. And that was a dangerous game. The next morning, I drove into town under the pretense of getting supplies. Really, I was meeting Lily at her bakery. She hugged me tight, her flour-dusted apron leaving smudges on my jacket. You look like hell, Ethan, she said, her eyes narrowing. What's going on? I wanted to tell her everything, but Victor's men were never far. Just work stuff. I lied. I need you to do something for me. There's a guy named Julian Hart. Look into his family's land. See if there's anything about a historical trust. Lily frowned but nodded. You're scaring me. But okay. Be careful. All right. I hugged her again, memorizing the warmth of it, in case it was the last time. Back at the cabin, Julian was waiting, his expression a mix of hope and fear. Did you find anything? He asked. Not yet, I said. But Lily's on it. She's smart. If there's something to find, she'll dig it up. He nodded, but his eyes were distant. Ethan, if this goes wrong, I don't want you to lose everything because of me. I stepped closer, my hand brushing his cheek before I could stop myself. You're not making me do anything. I'm choosing this. His eyes softened, and for a moment, the world was just us. Then he kissed me. It was tentative at first, like he was afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. I kissed him back, hard and desperate, pouring every fear, every hope, every unspoken dream into it. His hands tangled in my hair, and I felt like I was drowning in him in the best way possible. We broke apart, breathless, and he rested his forehead against mine. Whatever happens, he whispered, this was worth it. But reality crashed back too soon. Victor's men showed up that evening, their leader a brute named Marco eyeing me like I was prey. Boss wants an update. He growled. You breaking him yet? I glanced at Julian, who stood tall despite the tension. Working on it, I said, my voice steady even as my heart raced. Marco smirked. Better work faster. Victor's not patient. When they left, Julian grabbed my arm. We need to move. Now. He was right. Time was slipping away, and Victor's patience was a ticking bomb. We spent the next day poring over old documents Julian had hidden in the cabin letters. Photos. Anything that could prove the land's historical value. There were stories of secret gatherings, of love and defiance in a time when being yourself could get you killed. It was beautiful, and it made me ache for Julian even more. But Victor wasn't idle. On the 6th day, he called. "You're stalling." "Ethan," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "I know you're getting soft on him. Don't make me prove how serious I am." I hung up, my hands shaking. Julian was watching me, his expression unreadable. "What did he say?" "He knows," I said. "He always knows." Julian's jaw tightened. Then we fight back. Together. The cabin was no longer a safe house, it was a cage. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside, set my nerves on edge. Julian and I were racing against time, piecing together evidence to save his family's land while Victor's threats grew sharper. But the more we worked together, the more I realized I wasn't just fighting for Lily or my mom anymore. I was fighting for him, for us. Lily came through late that night, texting me a scanned copy of a 1968 newspaper article about the Hart Farm. It described a hidden sanctuary for queer couples, a place where they could dance, laugh, and love without fear. The article wasn't enough on its own, but it was a start. Julian's eyes lit up when I showed him. And for the first time, I saw hope in him, not just defiance, but real, fragile hope. "We can use this," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "If we can get this to the right people, the Historical Society, the press, Victor's plans are dead." But getting it out wasn't easy. Victor's men were watching us closer now, and I knew he had eyes everywhere. Asheville wasn't a big city, and Victor owned half of it. We needed a plan, and we needed it fast. That night, we sat by the fire, mapping out our next move. Julian's hand rested on my knee, a quiet anchor in the storm. "There's a lawyer I know," he said. "Clara Evans. She's tough, and she hates Victor. If we can get this to her, she'll know what to do." I nodded, but my stomach churned. Getting to her means leaving the cabin. If Victor's men catch us, they won't, Julian said, his voice firm. "We'll be careful. We'll be smart." I wanted to believe him, but fear was a living thing inside me. Still, I looked into his eyes, and I saw something stronger than fear: trust. He trusted me, even after everything. I leaned in and kissed him, softer this time, like a promise. "Okay," I whispered. "We do this together." The next morning, we made our move. I drove, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Julian sat beside me, calm but alert, his hand resting on my thigh. It was a small gesture, but it kept me grounded. We took back roads, avoiding the main highways where Victor's men might be watching. The plan was to meet Clara at a diner on the edge of town, a place so nondescript it was practically invisible. But Victor was always one step ahead. Halfway there, a black SUV pulled up behind us, tailing too close. My heart sank. "Julian," I said, my voice tight, "we've got company." He glanced in the side mirror, his jaw clenching. "Keep driving. Don't stop." I floored it, the old truck rattling as we sped down the winding road. The SUV stayed on us, its headlights glaring like eyes in the rearview mirror. Julian grabbed my phone. "Dialing Clara. We're in trouble," he said when she answered. "Victor's men. We're on Route 74, heading toward the diner." Clara's voice was calm but urgent. "Get off the road. There's a gas station a mile ahead. Pull in. Act normal. I'll meet you there." I swerved into the gas station, my pulse pounding. The SUV slowed but didn't follow us in. I parked by the pumps, my hands shaking as I turned off the engine. Julian reached over, squeezing my hand. "We're okay," he said, though his voice betrayed his own fear. Clara arrived 10 minutes later, A no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes and a briefcase full of legal documents. We handed her the article and everything else we'd found: letters, photos, even a diary from Julian's great-uncle, who'd run the farm in its heyday. She skimmed them, her expression unreadable. "This is good," she said finally. "Really good. I can file an emergency injunction to block Victor's development. But it'll take time. And he won't like it." "He already doesn't," I said, glancing at the road. The SUV was gone, but I knew they'd be back. Clara looked at us, her gaze softening. "You two are in deep. Be careful. And take care of each other." We drove back to the cabin in silence, the weight of what we'd done settling over us. We were fighting now, really fighting, and there was no turning back. That night, Julian pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me like he could shield me from the world. "Thank you," he whispered, "for choosing me." I buried my face in his neck, breathing him in. "I'd choose you again," I said, "every time." But Victor wasn't done. The next morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. "You're playing a dangerous game. Ethan, back off, or Julian pays the price." The text was a knife to my heart. I showed it to Julian, expecting him to panic. But he just set his jaw and said, "We're not stopping." His courage was infectious, but it didn't erase the fear gnawing at me. Victor wasn't just threatening my family, now was coming for Julian, the one person who'd made me feel alive in years. Clara worked fast, filing the injunction that afternoon. By evening, the local news was buzzing with stories about the Hart Farm's history, thanks to a press release she'd sent out. Social media lit up, with hashtags like Save Hart Farm trending. It was working, people were listening. But Victor wasn't the type to back down. That night, we stayed in the cabin, the air thick with tension. Julian was pacing, his mind racing with plans. "If the injunction holds," he said, "Victor's project is dead. But he'll come for us first." I nodded, my throat tight. "I know. But we've got people on our side now. Clara, the press, the community. He can't touch us all." Julian stopped, looking at me with an intensity that made my heart ache. "Ethan, if this goes wrong, I need you to know something. These past few days, with you, the been the best of my life." I crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling him into my arms. "Don't talk like that," I said, my voice rough. "We're getting through this. Together." He kissed me then, fierce and desperate, like he was trying to memorize me. I kissed him back, pouring every ounce of myself into it. We didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but in that moment, we had each other, and it was enough. The next day, everything fell apart. Victor's men stormed the cabin at dawn, led by Marco. They dragged us out, shoving us into the back of a van. Julian fought, landing a solid punch before they pinned him down. I screamed his name, but a fist to my jaw silenced me. The world went blurry, and when I came to, we were back in the warehouse where it all began. Victor was waiting, his calm demeanor more terrifying than any rage. "You disappointed me, Ethan," he said, circling us. Julian was tied to a chair again, his face bruised but defiant. I was on my knees, hands bound, hating myself for failing him. "You think a few news stories will stop me?" Victor continued. "You're out of your depth." Julian spat blood, his eyes blazing. "You're the one who's finished. Victor, the world knows about the farm now. You can't touch it." Victor's smile was icy. "Maybe not. But I can touch you." He nodded to Marco, who raised a gun. Time slowed. I saw the fear in Julian's eyes. Not for himself, but for me. And in that moment, I knew I'd do anything to save him. Stop, I shouted, struggling to my feet. I'll do whatever you want. Victor, just let him go. Victor raised an eyebrow. Anything. Anything, I said, my voice breaking. Just don't hurt him. Julian shook his head, his eyes pleading. Ethan. No. But Victor was already moving. He untied Julian, shoving him toward me. You're lucky I'm feeling generous, he said. Get out. Both of you. But if I see either of you again, you're done. We stumbled out into the dawn, bruised and shaken but alive. Julian clung to me, his breath ragged. You idiot, he whispered. You could have died. So could you, I said, holding him tighter. I wasn't going to let that happen. We made it back to town, where Clara was waiting with news. The injunction had held. The Hart farm was safe, designated a historical landmark. Victor's project was dead, and he was under investigation for kidnapping and extortion. It wasn't over, he'd slither away. Like always, but we'd won this round. Months later, Julian and I stood on the farm, now a community center for queer youth. The air was warm, filled with laughter and music from a small opening ceremony. Julian took my hand, his eyes shining. We did this, he said. No, I said, pulling him close. You did this. I just followed you. He laughed, soft and bright. Then keep following me. Ethan, I'm not done with you yet. We kissed under the oak trees, the same ones that had sheltered lovers decades ago. The world wasn't perfect, and neither were we. But we had each other, and that was a victory worth fighting for.